Welcome up, Wires.
I suck at Minigolf.
I'm also very new to competing in Airsoft. And I've entirely lost the ability to cook a quality homemade meal. But if I started training every day in virtual reality, could that change? I don't think I've ever won a game of Minigolf. Even the last time I played, I scored last place against all of my coworkers. So today, I just want to win one game against Justin. To properly conduct this test, I'll be providing before and after results. I'll be keeping track of the most important data, like how many times I've been hit in Airsoft or collecting unbiased reviews of my food. But luckily for me, golf already has a simple scoring system. Hit the ball into the hole and try to do it in the least amount of hits possible.
Wow, you're lucky. Wow. 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 Oh.
It's been maybe a year or so since I played Minigolf, so this shot was a big achievement for me. My playstyle currently consists of always trying to get a hole-in-one, which hasn't happened yet. It's not a very good mindset to have, but Putt-U has the secret 19th hole. You only get one chance to make this shot, and we both missed. This is going to be my insane asylum for the next week. I know, it's gorgeous. For the next 7 days, I'll be playing Walkabout Minigolf for a minimum of an hour and a half, just going through and completing courses. And this is John Walkabout. He's my Minigolf persona.
Oh, fire. You look like a poker star's avatar.
On day one, Justin and I played whatever courses seemed interesting in the moment. I played about as well as you'd expect for a new player, but I did hit this pretty cool shot and didn't acknowledge it whatsoever. I just wanted you to see it. After the first day was over, I reflected on what were my weakest traits. So on day 2, I put on the headset and got ready to browse the course list again.
Mist got a course?
Yeah, so it turns out Walkabout Minigolf just has licensed courses. Never in my life would I have expected Myst, a puzzle game from 1993, to have a minigolf course, but I mean, here we are. I spent the rest of day 2 exploring courses that I haven't played yet, and it turns out that I just didn't get to touch any of their new courses. I know it doesn't look like much, but this place is gorgeous in VR. Day 3 was kind of boring, so I'll just give you the cliff notes. I practiced the strength of my hits, I ran out of new courses, and so I tried to get a lower par on my favorite courses. It worked.
-6. 6 under par.
But day 4 was the most important day of training. I decided to learn how to study individual minigolf courses so I could better strategize every stroke that I take. It made each of my turns feel intentional rather than a missed hole-in-one opportunity. Although I did get my first hole-in-one, which was pretty sick. I also paid for a few maps, specifically this Upside Down Town level, a deep-sea themed map, and of course, Myst. It was a big day for my minigolf career. Although I didn't have enough time to play these maps all the way through, I bought them so I could play with Justin the next day. But before I went to bed, I wanted to see what the ocean-themed map looked like. And if you don't know me outside of YouTube, I love the ocean. I think it's nature's coolest and most mysteriously unique places to adventure. Even though this doesn't look like anything too special on a flat screen, seeing this in VR was unlike anything else that I had seen in that headset. Day 5, I got to experience these levels start to finish with Justin. I had always heard that they tried making their DLC maps minigolf courses that could only work in VR, and they were 100% correct. Some of these were just pretty environments, but I was genuinely surprised at the city course and Myst. The city course just used some really wonky physics, like having the golf ball switch gravity and requiring precision shots off things like the ceiling.
You have to hit it like this.
Are you kidding me? What the That is... No.
It's so cool, right?
Dude, I have to par upside down. This is so weird. I can't do it. Can we wait a different level?
Myst was also pretty cool. They made golf a puzzle game. You had to unlock doors and holes, and they used strokes to tell you how many moves it takes to solve each puzzle. Genuinely, one of the coolest ideas that I've seen for minigolf, and I'm surprised that no one's done it sooner. Day 6 consisted of mostly the same activities. We tried out the Candyland map, and it was alright. It had this fun spinny thing that the ball goes around, but other than that, the courses themselves weren't anything special.
I know it doesn't look tricky on surface, but it is... What the f***? Okay, you got lucky. That is not at all what you're supposed to do.
The rest of the footage for some reason came out like this. I still don't know why. But day 7 was a ton of fun. Walkabout got a pretty sizable update, including new game modes, map overhauls, and a Wallace and Gromit collab. For some reason, I think this course is going to turn out great. To wrap up the last day of training, Justin and I tried the new race mode, where you both play at the same time and whoever completes the courses first wins.
I think we are actually just racing each other. Oh, we are. Oh, this is going to be so much fun.
No!
No!
It's actually over. I'm collapsing under the pressure. I'm collapsing under the pressure. It's over. I'm actually sweating. I have a strat. Yeah,
Oh?
I've done this before. I did this yesterday. That's how I got the -10. Yes! Yes! It worked!
What?
I won! Oh, I can't play the replay. I hit it right up from here, down.
I see what you did now, yeah.
Unfortunately, Justin had to leave, which meant the last 45 minutes of training was spent practicing the harder golf courses. So after 13 and a half hours of digitally going outdoors, it was time to see if VR helped me get better at minigolf. Justin and I decided that it would be best to play the same course for the most accurate results. Enough time has passed for me to forget the most optimal routes, so it shouldn't affect the statistics at all. But almost immediately, we both saw improvements in the quality of our shots. I started each round by finding the stroke count, studying the layout of the terrain, and then evaluating the most feasible routes with my skill set. And for the most part, this worked out perfectly for us.
Oh, that is 100% that we're... You didn't see that.
They also got their power up and running again for their waterfall, which was very nice because it was like 90 degrees outside. As bad as it felt, it was also kind of nice to be out of that headset and in the sun for a bit. You can show me all the pretty VR environments you want, but nothing beats that classic minigolf atmosphere. I think going from VR to real minigolf definitely had some drawbacks. Justin and I consistently saw issues when it came to the strength of our hits, and the fact that the golf ball sometimes decided that it wanted to bounce around after being hit. It was different enough to still give us a challenge, even though we got under par on almost every course. Except this one, I tried recreating the shot from last time and I failed absolutely miserably. But none of that mattered because it all came down to striking a hole-in-one on the final 19th course. And we still missed. Airsoft is a sport that I've been wanting to play for a very long time. Ever since middle school, I've been doing some research on how to get into the hobby and trying my best to engage with the community. The community is split off into multiple subgroups who play close quarters, military simulators, casual games like Team Deathmatch, and so on. You can't really win or lose most of the time, you're just there to spend time with a super nice community that enjoys the tactical feeling of guns, but doesn't want to shoot something lethal.
But I also just want to make it clear that this is not like a pro or anti-gun video or something like that. I just prefer it more than paintball because paintball you don't get to customize your stuff as much. This you get to customize your loadout, and I mean it's from the games that I play, which real guns from games I play.
I'll be using the Walther P99 CO2 pistol for this experiment. I'll be keeping track of every shot that I take, every time I hit someone, and how many times I get hit. And if you're wondering why I'm using a pistol instead of a rifle for this experiment, well, yeah, training wouldn't help much. So I'm going in pistol only with my childhood friend Owen. It turns out that we both had the exact same pistol, which was a really funny coincidence, and it meant that making room was much easier since we both had the same advantages and disadvantages of our P99. We tried sticking together for the most part, but occasionally we would break off into separate groups. I'd say we played surprisingly well given the fact that collectively we don't have much experience playing Airsoft and only had pistols. It forced us to play creatively and very mobile, which meant attempting to hit cool shots like this. Even though I didn't hit him, I am still really proud of that idea. We stuck out like a sore thumb because of all the camera equipment and lack of gear. But everyone was super supportive and even gave us tips on how to play better. There were even other creators there, which was cool.
Hey, let's go with YouTuber.
It was everything I wanted and more in an Airsoft game. We ended up playing 5 rounds, 373 shots were fired, and of those shots, 10 landed on players. Outside of this time that I thought a ricochet was an out,
There's a guy like... Oh, I got hit.
That was a ricochet.
Was it?
I got out 12 times. The camera did fall off my head towards the end of the first game, so technically there's a little bit of missing information here, but I was still extremely impressed with how we played together, and it got me even more excited to see how I'd improve. But before we go any further, I'd like to kindly ask for a minute and a half of your time. This is my first VR headset. I sunk a little over 800 hours into this headset from March of 2019 to when I got my HP Reverb back in January of 2023. It is really beat up, from the face covering falling apart, to the headband falling off and needing a homemade replacement, all the way up to when the cable inevitably broke. And of all of these issues, the most annoying was this. Big old scratches formed from my glasses rubbing up against the lenses. When it came time to upgrading my headset, I decided I wanted to purchase a pair of prescription lenses so this didn't happen again. I looked into and tried multiple different brands of prescription lenses, but ultimately I settled on Real Optics, who were kind enough to send me a few kits when I reached out to them about this project. These are hands down my favorite VR lenses. There is an insane amount of detail in their product, from the custom hard shell case it comes in, to the magnetic attachment system which has yet to fog on me during long play sessions and makes the whole cleaning process a breeze. And if you share your headset with others often, they make non-prescription inserts so your friends with glasses don't leave your lenses looking like mine. That's why I'm really excited to announce that I'm now an affiliate for Real Optics, because they're a brand that I genuinely love and their prescription lenses are something that I use daily. It's like I got an entirely new headset with not only how clear everything looked, but the comfortability and wider field of view that glasses always seem to hinder. If you would like to support my channel, I'd highly recommend treating yourself to a pair of Real Optics lenses. Clicking the link in the description or scanning the QR code on screen will directly help me create more projects like this. Share it with a friend, bookmark it, or even write it down on a sticky note like I would if you want to save it for later. Thank you, Real Optics, for making this video possible. Thank you for your time, and welcome to day 1 of Ghosts of Tabor. If you've never heard of this game before, it's VR's biggest extraction shooter. It's very similar to Escape from Tarkov. I would know, I've never played Tarkov. But what sets Ghosts of Tabor apart is the realism in its combat. All of the guns feel and sound perfect. The attention to detail in every weapon is insane, and the combat itself is some of the best adrenaline pumping action that I've ever experienced in a headset. Sure, the realistic combat plays a big part, but I'd argue that the stakes at hand play an even bigger part. Getting gear in Tabor is difficult. Each run can last between 5 and 40 minutes, and it only takes one shot to the head to end your run. So if you die, not only do you waste all of that time, but everything that you're currently holding. Oh! It's not for everyone, but it's a perfect game for practicing Airsoft. I'll be trying to stick to the Terrain Tactical G34 when given the chance, which you may already recognize if you've seen John Wick 4. It is my favorite pistol in the game and has very similar qualities to my P99. The first day didn't go too well because of how sore I was from Airsoft, but I still got some decent practice in.
We're chill, bro. We're chill. It's just the voices in your head.
Actually, please kill us.
Listen to the voices in my head.
Day 2, I spent a lot of time going into raids with nothing and seeing what I could grab. I'd bring maybe a pistol, sometimes a backpack, and aim to get quick kills for extra loot. Although my luck wasn't the best, I did actually manage to sneak in a pretty good raid at the very end with an absolutely insane amount of kills for not having access to any health shots. But instead of practicing exclusively with a pistol the entire time, I decided day 3 would be a good day to go back and gather gear for future raids and focus more on my positioning. I went into a raid with some basic equipment, just a Ruger, Galil, and a backpack. First couple raids were duds, but the last one had me in tears. It started off pretty well, securing a couple player kills and some decent loot. I headed over to the docks to extract, and then the entire lobby just decided to show up out of nowhere. I started running out of food, so playing aggressively was my only option here, but just one shot to the chest would deal enough damage to die of starvation before I could extract. So I found my opening, got what I believed was the final kill, and rushed to grab the loot and leave. And in my hands was the best raid that I've ever had in my 150 hours playing Tabor. Endgame guns, mid-tier armor, and tens of rare items. With little to no time left, I rushed to the extract to keep my newfound belongings.
No!
And then starved to death with 2 seconds left. After what happened the day before, I was still pretty sad going into day 4. I decided to go back to bringing just a pistol and playing for kills on smaller maps, so if I did lose anything, it wouldn't be too big of a deal.
I'm so confused then. Wait, this is a full kit. Oh my god! Oh my god, I got quads.
I went from bringing nothing to finding the entire lobby dead and having all of their loot just handed to me. These guys had way more gear and equipment than the night before. The quality of the gear wasn't nearly as good, but there was so much more of it that I wouldn't even need to go gear hunting for a while. If it wasn't for this raid, I genuinely think the rest of my week would have been ruined. But I decided to keep testing my luck anyways, and I continued to only bring my G34. Outside of this one jump scare at Extract,
Oh my!
the next few raids were pretty normal. And then the final raid, I found a purple keycard. And just to put it into perspective on how rare these things are, this is the first time that I found one in a chest. They give you the ability to open a loot room, which just so happened to be right below me. I got some good armor, some clean kills, and decent loot at the end. Unfortunately, because I didn't bring a backpack, I couldn't take it all home, I was just stuck with the sling backpack that I stole off some random guy. But, I mean, for going into a raid with nothing, this is still really good. And then day 5 had almost nothing interesting happen. I ended the day finding an MP7, which is one of my favorite guns, so I shot what was left in the magazine in my bunker. That was fun. Day 6 had a decent amount of action. I packed much heavier equipment in hopes that I could use my pistol a bunch to get a couple bonk kills, but still not leave empty-handed. I got into this really intense firefight at one point. I tried grabbing loot that I found, and then heard some guys shooting off the roof. I threw what I thought were pretty good grenades, only to be met by a bullet in the chest. I also met this random guy in a raid. His name was Godfox, and he was super chill. He found me in a firefight with a bot, and he just didn't have any guns to kill me. So we went around, got some kills, but the raid ended up being horrible, so I just let him kill me for the XP. But day 7 came around pretty quick, and I just wanted to use this time to appreciate the game and try out new things that I've never done before. The first thing I did was turn on this helmet camera for you guys so you get an overhead shot of Island of Tabor. I had to turn off the helmet camera shortly after because my game kept lagging, but my next goal was to get a kill with the knife. I've never done this before. I died a few times doing it, was jump scared once as well, but I did actually manage to get my first knife kill, which was pretty rad. To end the final day of training, I went in with a grenade and killed some guy just trying to say hello.
Hello?
So after another 11 hours was sunk into this game, I was ready to play Airsoft again. This was possibly the worst day to play Airsoft. Not only was I busy later that day, happy very late birthday Carnelian, but the heat was miserable. And because the heat was really bad for the average person, of course these guys showed up. That was not full auto, by the way, that's just how fast he shoots. But I was still there with my friends, and I was there to play the best I could, which apparently was not that good. I did manage to sneak in a couple shots on people, but I was drenched in sweat. I only had the energy for 3 games, and I'd say a solid 30% of that was me complaining about the weather.
I think this is the hottest weather that's ever been outside. When I'm outside. What am I saying?
I did get really close to getting a few people out at one point. I used what I learned in Tabor to sneak onto enemy grounds and ambush the last 3 people from the bushes.
Hit.
And then my friend shot me on accident. So, after reviewing the footage and realizing this wasn't a fair comparison, I did the only thing that I could. Because this wasn't planned for the video at all, I went alone with 3 hours of sleep. I knew a couple of people there by that point, so I just stuck with them for most of the day. I also put together this outfit. I thought it would be really funny.
We got the outfit, we got the drip. That's it.
Yeah, I got Cold Freddy Fazbear all day. I decided it'd be fair to do 2 matches with the pistol to make it a matching 5 games, and yeah, somehow I did worse. I don't know if it was a lack of sleep, the BBs I was using, or just my luck, but I shot 148 BBs for my pistol, and not a single one landed on someone. But before I left, I wanted to treat myself to a rifle. I'd been saving up for a while, and I thought, what better time than now since I have my camera. I got some pretty good shots off, my first being a shot through a crack in the wall, which was really neat. I swear though, after watching the footage, I'd play like a video game character. It felt appropriate in the moment, but you can tell who's been playing VR for the past week, let's just say that. But honestly, as much fun as the actual games were, I really wouldn't consider it the highlight of the day. I got to meet some amazing people that I continue to play Airsoft with today. They showed me a bunch of their gear, and then we all sat down, put on the vintage radio, got some bottle caps out, and they taught me how to play poker.
The kids are probably looking at us like, what the f are they doing over there? They're throwing a birthday party. We are having the time of our lives, so.
I don't really care if I got better or worse at Airsoft. No matter how good or bad I played those 10 rounds, the fun I had came from engaging with people in the community, and that doesn't require any Airsoft skills at all. It's an experience that you just can't get in VR, and it's something that I'll remember for years to come. Most people don't know this about me, but I used to really enjoy cooking. It was a hobby that sparked at the age of 6 from watching MasterChef with my mom, and it inspired me to be more involved in the kitchen at a very young age. I made dishes like risotto, seasoned mushroom skewers, sushi, things that were just more complex than the frozen waffles my friends would make for family dinners. So unlike Minigolf and Airsoft, this was a skill that I wanted to relearn to use as an alternative for ordering food. To make this test fair, I wanted to create all of the recipes myself. I can research and take inspiration from other sources, but what I am cooking must be entirely mine. I figured steak and rice with a homemade garlic butter sauce would be a simple enough dish that I could do it, but it's also complex enough that it'll challenge me in the kitchen and give me valuable feedback for my next dish. But just so I didn't ruin anybody's night, I thought I'd make the only dish that stuck with me all of these years. It's a Greek salad made of cucumbers, olives, and feta cheese. Usually I add some lemon juice to the mix, but I decided to make my own Greek salad dressing this time. I made the salad first as an appetizer of sorts, hoping it would give me a few extra points and buy me some extra time to struggle my way through the steak and rice. The dressing looked great, and the salad looked even more appetizing than always, so I served it in a bowl and got to work on the main course. I started off by fumbling my way through the rice cooker, which it turns out is the exact size for how much rice I need. And if you're wondering what I was using to scale these portion sizes, I wasn't. I eyeballed basically everything until the end of this recipe. So as I let the rice cooker sit, I got to work on cooking up the steak. My plan was to cut it up into small cubes so the chances of serving raw steak were slim. I couldn't find a good enough knife or a strong grip to really cut it properly, so it took a lot longer than I expected. Afterwards, I added some olive oil to the pan, let the steak bites cook for 2 minutes, added a tiny bit of salt and pepper, and then stirred the bites around for another 2 minutes. After the steak was all cooked, I used the remaining juice in the pan to create a garlic butter sauce and cooked the mixture for about 30 seconds. Then I waited for maybe 15 minutes as I let the rice cooker finish. I remembered that day why people typically start the rice first. But once the rice was finished, I grabbed an ice cream scooper to plate the rice because I thought it was really funny, threw even portions of steak on each plate, drizzled the sauce on top, and dinner was ready. This is my steak and rice dish, or as I like to call it, dog food for humans. I think visually it didn't hold up very well and it tasted about how it looked. I didn't add nearly enough seasoning to anything, which made the dish very bland. I ended up not finishing my meal because I'm very picky, but everyone else had much more generous opinions than mine, with the main complaints being that the steak wasn't cooked evenly and that there wasn't enough seasoning. But hey, everyone liked the salad and thought both the sauce and dressing came out well, so it's definitely better than serving raw steak. So I have absolutely no idea how Cooking Simulator works. I talked to a coworker of mine about a good cooking VR game, and this was recommended to me. I'm not a big simulator person, but I do enjoy me some PC building and TCG card shop simulators, so it's not my first rodeo with the game format. The only difference, this was my first time playing one in VR. So the first day I wanted to just mess around, get creative in the kitchen, and see what I could make.
Okay, that just fell through the plate.
I quickly gave up on that dream, tried to make a 1000 degree knife and realized that it wouldn't work, so I just got to making the actual orders. I made a few baked trout dishes and was met with glowing reviews, which honestly boosted my confidence in the kitchen a lot. It still wasn't anything impressive, but I was doing it right, which is all that mattered. I ended the night trying to learn knife tricks, and it went about as well as you'd expect. I don't know exactly how to describe the physics of this game, but every object you're holding is like the weight of a brick, and then the second it hits the table, it's just covered in some slippery oil. Honestly, it's not very surprising considering their development history, but nonetheless, it didn't interfere with the actual cooking process that much. Day 2 I locked in, cooking dishes all day and trying to further figure out how the game controlled. I also wanted to decorate the place a bit more, so I bought a bunch of buckets. This makes it feel like home. I also accumulated enough points to redeem some more dishes to cook, so I went to the computer, browsed the menu, and redeemed a few things that looked tasty. By day 3, I felt pretty comfortable with the gameplay loop of serving meals and turning a profit. Early on in the day, I earned enough points to unlock—
Oh my god, steak with french fries!
Oh, you gotta buy that.
Oh, I'm getting that.
Most of the day was spent serving new dishes I unlocked, from lobster to more baked cod, or even soups now. It felt like these dishes were finally teaching me something about the cooking process.
What does this taste like? Oh, wait, you can actually do that.
Oh.
I ended the day by making steak and fries, which, honestly, the steak I had no issues cooking, but the fries I couldn't figure out how to cut into even portions, so it was more like potato wedges rather than fries. Also, if you're wondering why the game jumped in visual quality, it's because I'm stupid and just figured out that the game was running at the lowest settings. It honestly looks great on ultra settings, especially after I found out that they added unique themes to the kitchen for holidays and whatnot. On day 4, I decided to take the day to experiment with the game itself and see how wacky things can get while in a call with Justin.
Done.
Look at the burger I made.
Like...
I tried making some of the worst dishes known to man. It turns out that you can submit any dish you want, even if there's no food on it, so you can serve literal hazards to people.
Alright, there we go. Should I light this and then serve it?
Yes.
Okay. Quick. Take.
2 on.
I did make actual dishes here and there, trying to passively make money for my business, so I wasn't too broke to buy things like salt. But towards the end of my training, Justin had to leave, and so I played around with the physics. I found out that bouncing foods on the spatula was a ton of fun, but I must have looked like I went crazy. I did this for nearly 25 minutes straight.
You think this is gonna explode if I just...
Day 5 came around, and as much fun as day 4 and the previous days were, I didn't want to keep repeating goofing off instead of actually doing my training. I wanted a reason to train other than giving myself the ability to save money on food. Conveniently, my aunt was coming back from my vacation the day before I wanted to host another family dinner, so to welcome her back, I decided I'd put the rest of my training time into practicing a dish that she requested. A homemade chicken piccata dish. Conveniently, this dish is very similar to the process of steak and rice, but it's going to require a bit more attention for a few additional steps. Not only that, but this dinner was going to have twice as many people as my last one. So, since I had new plans, the last few days needed to be spent entirely on practicing. Luckily by now, the prices to make a lot of these dishes was going up, and I was expected to make at least 2 dishes at once, so I didn't really have the choice on whether I wanted to be stupid with my time or not. I bought some new pots, pans, trays, and a few more tools to hopefully make it easier to multitask. I also set up 2 more workstations so I can prep up to 3 meals at a time, but other than that, I just made the few usual dishes for the day. And then day 6 showed up, and I wanted to put my all into most of the orders. I will be honest, I did start to give up on the plating by now. I found out that if you don't put any effort into the plating, most of the time you'll just get the same score anyways, so I just took the easy way out to give myself a couple extra minutes of training each day. But by now, I was extremely confident with my chopping skills, and even though multitasking was still stressful, it wasn't nearly as bad as when I started. Day 6 passed by quickly, and then day 7, the final day of my VR training, was finally here. I spent the first half of the day prepping meals, unlocking a few new dishes I wanted to make, and tried to be as efficient as possible. I felt extremely confident that every dish that left my hands was the best quality possible of me. Minus points for sneezing on the food. I think I was most proud of how my tuna steaks were turning out. This was a dish that I grew up eating, and honestly I expected it to be a lot harder to make than it was. You might see me try to make it in real life now, you never know. I think it'd be a fun second channel video. But during the second half of the day, I felt like it was time to make this kitchen feel like home. Outside of the buckets, at least. I spent a decent amount of time decorating, putting new flooring in, installing new walls, and honestly, I'm a bit sad that I didn't do this earlier, but if I were to come back to this game one day, my kitchen will feel all clean at least. I also found out that you can put rubber gloves on your character. I hate that it took the entire 7 days to figure this out, but it's still a cool addition that they didn't need to add. This final day quickly came to a close, and all 21 days of training were complete. So, did Cooking Simulator genuinely make me a better cook, or did I just waste all of that time for nothing? Being in this kitchen again brought back all of my nerves. Sure, the training made me more confident with my techniques, but it was still a game at the end of the day, and it could have been teaching me what not to do in the kitchen. The goal for tonight is to make a chicken piccata dish with spaghetti and a homemade sauce to go on top of it. I'm skipping the appetizer, so hefty portion sizes and cooking techniques are going to do all of the heavy lifting this time around. To avoid making the same mistake as last time, I got a pot of water ready to boil the spaghetti in. Afterwards, I cut each chicken breast into halves and breaded them with flour and Parmesan. This was my first time breading anything, so I expected it just to stick after coating the chicken in olive oil, but it wouldn't stick. Honestly, this was scaring me a bit because this was one of the more important parts of my dish, but I tried to get as much on each piece as possible and hoped that after frying it, the breading would kinda just stay. I then put some olive oil, salt, and pepper all into a pan to both fry the chicken in and to use as the base for my sauce. and then I ran out of olive oil, and I found out shortly after that that's not supposed to be used for frying things. Pretty much everything that could go wrong had gone wrong up until this point, and it had me worried for the rest of the process. I still used one of the pans with olive oil, but I ended up just cooking most of the chicken using vegetable oil as a substitute. By now the water was boiling hot, so I threw the spaghetti in and it got the chicken ready to put onto a plate. Some of the breading decided to stay on, but a decent chunk of it had fallen off into the sauce. I added some chicken broth and garlic to the pans, mixed it around for a while, and let them sit as I cut the lemons for plating. After a couple minutes went by, I added butter, capers, and a couple slices of lemons to the sauce. Watching the footage over, I realized just how much of my cooking process came from muscle memory after playing Cooking Simulator. Like, instead of just adding lemons to the pan, I tossed each one individually like it's disc golf. The oil splashed on me every time and it hurt. How I didn't learn not to toss the lemons, I don't know. But once the sauce was done, I added some Parmesan cheese in, put the heat on low, and prepared to plate my food. Well, until my uncle walked into the kitchen and said that not only am I going to need a lot more sauce, but the chicken was also still raw. Literally the worst thing that could have happened had happened. I did panic for a little bit because the sauce was supposed to be finished, but after a few minutes, I centered myself and said screw it. Sure, this experiment is supposed to be done entirely by me, but I think having my uncle help me when needed is much better than serving my family raw chicken. We threw the chicken back into the sauce, and he showed me a few cooking techniques to add a little bit more extra flavoring. We used some water from the spaghetti for the sauce, and put a lid on the chicken to keep the moisture in. These would add a little bit more flavoring, but the added water would also give me more sauce to work with. I kept the lemon in there as well to hopefully add a bit stronger of a taste to my sauce, and after a few more minutes in the pan, we poured the spaghetti water into the sink, plated the chicken, added the sauce on, and got ready to serve dinner. This right here is one of my favorite dishes that I've ever made. Not only did I really enjoy dinner this time, but it took a lot of work from multiple people to make. On the surface, it highlights all of the techniques and confidence I gained after playing Cooking Simulator, and when you taste it, you taste every detail that my uncle and I added to the dish with a hint of passion that I used to have. This was not at all the result that I had expected from this experiment. This was one of the best tasting dishes that I had ever made, and it gave me a lot more confidence to maybe make something instead of just throwing a frozen pizza in the oven. I think the split between chicken being cooked well and poorly could have been because of the olive oil choice, but I personally enjoyed my chicken a lot. This experiment has taught me a lot about myself. I often feel like finding the time to do all these activities is too much of a hassle for what I'd actually be getting out of them. But in the last month of doing this, I've gotten the chance to share a lot of cool experiences that I otherwise wouldn't have even bothered doing. I guess if there's something that you can take away from this video, it's to go try something new. Go try fishing or go-karting, something that you've been wanting to do for a while. Even if you have to settle with a virtual version of what you had in mind, you'll be a lot happier that you tried rather than never giving it a fair shot.